play the long game. You're not playing the short game. Go all in. This is not a career that you can just piecemeal, and this is not selling sunset. This is not HGTV.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, not sorry, but you got to do some bitch work first.
Tara, thank you for being here. Welcome to the Give or Gain show.
I'm excited to be here.
We've been friends for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And I've watched you grow, and some of the things that I have just been in awe of is your ability to learn and then teach what you have learned. It is a very beautiful natural talent that you have. And I know you put work into it, but you make it look natural.
Well, I feel like I learn the most when I teach. So in order for me to comprehend things, I have to teach it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the very first time I saw that was when you were teaching the 7 levels. We were in an office setting, and you were teaching the class, and the way that you were able to express what you learned in a way for other people to understand just blew my mind. I never really saw someone take material like that and be able to teach it like that. That was pretty amazing.
Thanks. I think that, my background is my degree's in early childhood education. And so as adults, I feel like we're just kids anyway. So I'm a natural teacher. So it's kind of easy, but I enjoy that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what got you into real estate?
Well, I never wanted to do it. I grew up in a household of realtors my whole life, third generation, just never wanted to do it. And I was kind of an office manager for my family in I was 19, so that was not 2019. And when Hurricane Katrina came to New Orleans, and we bought some houses, and I got into real estate a little bit then, but then I just saw the grind and I just didn't want to do it. I remember when we would eat filet mignons versus sloppy joes, and I remember like my mom lived in the same house, but I never saw her. She didn't raise me, but because she was always working. And so I just was like, I don't want anything to do with that. And then here we are. I was managing high-end nightclubs and restaurants for 10 years, and Mauricio Inchensky, who owns the agency in Beverly Hills, well now worldwide, but he just said, why aren't you in real estate? And that question changed my whole life, and here we are 10 years later.
It's amazing. You had all those seeds, all those years growing up, and then it was the outside seed that was planted.
Yeah. And it was just one question. He just said, why aren't you in real estate? And I said, I don't want to do that. My mom does that. And then I woke up the next morning and I looked in the mirror and I said, did you just tell Mauricio? Because at that time, the Housewives of Beverly Hills was like a big thing. And I think he had just sold the Playboy Mansion. And I was like, did you just tell Mauricio you don't want to do something because your mom does it? I was like, how old are you? And then I called a friend and I said, what do you think about me getting into real estate? And she said, well, you'd be great at it. You should meet my mom. I met her mom in the penthouse 2 days later, and I interviewed against 10 other agents that even flew in for the position to work for a developer, and I landed a $90 million project, never selling real estate.
Wow.
With no license.
Wow. That goes personality.
Yeah.
Personality and charm.
They wanted the black book.
Exactly. Unbelievable. Where was that?
That was it was previously called Provage, and then he sold it. We had 24 units between 2 and 10 million, and then they sold it, and now it's called 321.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And then you were in the nightclub and restaurant hospitality industry.
That was where I met Mauricio.
Yeah, and that I feel like that background gives you such experience with people, getting to know people, understanding people, having a good time. Because one of the things I notice about you that I love is that you really do have a good time. You're laughing. You bring some fun to it. A lot of fun to it.
Yeah.
You build relationships, and you make it light and fun, even though the job may not always be that way. You make it look that way.
Yeah, I do my best for that. I feel like it's an experience, and if I'm not having fun, then I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, I think it's important to, we have a motto in my team, on the Gulfstream team, which is to bring the day one mentality, which we learned at the sales rally, and it really stood with us because you can kind of bring the past into the next day, and then that's where you kind of lose the fun. But when you bring a day one mentality to it, it's fresh and fun every day. It's just
I like
it's
that.
the process of letting go of whatever happened the day before.
Yeah. Day one.
Day one. Today's day one.
Okay.
First day on the job.
Okay. I like it.
So what is I know you've specialized in some things, but you know, the idea for the Giver Gains is for younger agents that are coming in, young to the business, that are coming in that get to learn from more experienced agents that have really navigated the waters. So, you know, what would be a couple of things that you would say to someone coming into the business now for the first time, not knowing much? What have you learned that you think would be helpful to them?
You know, I mean, you know that I was a coach and trainer for, many years, and especially for a lot of new agents the last few years. I'm still going to stick to the same thing. The first thing is play the long game. Play the long game. You're not playing the short game. And if you're concerned about splits or what is this person offering me versus this person, and the first time you have a conversation about splits, you're playing a short game. You're not here to play the long game. And go all in. This is not a career that you can just piecemeal, and this is not selling sunset. This is not HGTV. That $10,000 commission check that you think you're making, you end up only making $2,500. Don't be upset. You need 3 to 6 months in reserves. In this market, I'd say 6 months of reserves to go 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, not sorry, but you've got to do some bitch work first. Like, I have one guy that's coming in, and someone told him, like, you need to do everything. For anything Tara needs, you need to do. And I did a mastermind a week and a half ago, and he was, you know, in his shirt, he was blow drying, using the blower for all the leaves. He was like taking out he would not let me touch anything. And I was like, this is really nice. And I was like, but actually she was listening. Like, but I did those things for years.
That's right. Yep.
I split my money so many ways that, like, I should have made $80,000 my first year, and I made 33. And I didn't care. I was in it for the long haul. I knew that I was going to master this, and it's all the work that you have to do behind the scenes that nobody sees.
Yeah.
Like, a coach can tell you, or you can get motivation, but it's up to you to control your daily effort and attitude.
Yeah. I see that a lot where, you know, people come into the industry, our industry, your industry, and in real estate in general, and they think of it, there's a very false sense of finance and what,
very much.
Yeah, it's a false sense. And I feel like if you have that mentality, that long game mentality, and you say, okay, I'm going to get to 50,000, I'm going to get to 100,000. Just, you know, they come in like, I want to make $1 million.
Always.
And that's I think that's it has people get discouraged. It has people lose their way. Like, get realistic, and you can get there. Put in the time and the energy, but have a realistic goal.
Yeah, I think that if they were to just chunk it down, I think people get so caught up in these yearly goals, which I think it's great to have. And you and I know that we're on the same wavelength where we like to plan ahead. You know, someday goals, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. And I think people forget that, like, you may just need a 1 week goal. You
right,
just need a 1 day business plan. Like, you may not even need a week or a month. Like,
exactly.
Let's start there.
Let's go today. Let's get to 5 o'clock.
Yeah, we can talk about $1 million in a year or 3 years, whatever your goal is, but then we need to chunk it down.
Yeah.
And what do I need to do today? What do I need to do in the next hour to move the needle, right? And just chunk it down. I think that they forget about that. And I think that most people don't have a conversation or a reality check. They definitely don't teach us in real estate school about how much money they're really making. And that's my first conversation with realtors when they ask me about the business or they want to coach with me is, how much money do you need to make a month in order to survive, and how much do you have in reserves?
Right.
Most of them have neither.
Yeah, because I would imagine that when you're in a position where you don't have that, it's very hard to focus. It's very hard to, you know, you want to put the grind in, you want to put the work in, but your mind is on survival versus in a creative space and creating relationships. And I find that relationships happen naturally when you're in a creative state and you're not in that survival place, because you're able to just serve people. You're able to give them what they're looking for because you're not thinking about you.
Totally.
You know?
I think that you would probably agree to this, that in the mortgage business, at least, like when you're dealing with buyers and whatnot, and I find with realtors, the first question being, what's your monthly budget? Majority in all age ranges have no idea. And we're talking married couples.
Yeah.
We're talking like they seem like they all have it together, and they truly don't even know their budget. And I'm like, go home to your honey, talk about a budget, come back to me, tell me how many months you can go with no income.
Right.
And then I'll tell you if my 12-week plan you need to do in 6 weeks.
Yes.
Or you can take the 12-week plan and maybe you got a little bit of time.
Right.
Or this is just not for you.
Yeah. That's so real. That's just real talk, because that is really when you're getting into this business. And I feel like that's even when you're experienced. It's really understanding your budget and then creating the goals from there. But having, evolving throughout the process rather than just coming in from the get-go trying to hit it big. Not to say that can't happen. I'm not trying to, take away anybody's dreams, but it's just to be realistic, so that because the business is great and you can do so well in it if you have realistic goals.
Yeah, realistic goals, and also knowing what how many times people will say, well, no, they didn't tell me that. When I tell them, $10,000, okay, let's say you have an 80-20 split, then you have your expenses to pay back, or maybe you have to pay back another agent or a referral fee, 50-50 from there. But then you also have to pay your expenses. Then you have to pay Uncle Sam for whatever your splits are.
Right.
So 70-30 from there. Maybe you have a coach. Maybe there's another 25 or 10 from there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, out of the 10,000, you now have 2,500.
Right.
They're like, nobody told me that.
Right.
I'm like, of course not. They wanted you to pay to get the license.
Right. Exactly.
I wish the license was harder to get.
Yeah. What do you think about with the buyer brokerage agreements? Do you think that has made how do you feel about that?
It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me in my 10-year career.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It gave me more. It made more agents get out the business and have such a scarcity mindset. And I had my best year all year last year when 95% of the agents countrywide literally struggled.
Yeah. Yeah. So to that point, one of the things that I know about you and I respect a lot is the amount of work that you put into you.
Yeah.
You put a lot of work into you do a lot of development on yourself. You read a lot, you research a lot, you meet a lot of people. Did your personal development start when you were in real estate, or was it prior to real estate? It's just like a lifelong thing. Like for me, it's a lifelong thing. Since my 20s, I've always been developing myself.
Yeah.
But what about you?
I would say, definitely. I've always been my mom growing up, we always had motivational sayings and affirmations in the shower. She always had her goals on her mirror, and so I grew up with that mentality. I was in Toastmasters and public speaking in 5th grade, but I thought it was cool because I would just go to school late in 5th grade, and I didn't realize that still today that is where I pick up majority of all my speaking habits. And so I had that growing up, and then it kind of evolved, and of course I fucked around for a long time and did whatever I wanted to do, but I was always working. I've always been a hustler.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always been a hustler.
Yeah, and now you just hustle in real estate.
Yeah, I've always been a hustler, and then I think it got more though when I joined Keller Williams, probably when I just for the foundations that they kind of set. I think that really did help me kind of organize my life in a more of a structured way.
Yeah.
But it wasn't services so much per se from Keller Williams. It was the things that I got more introduced to, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And what are some of the daily routines that you have, or is there a weekly routine? I know you do Sunday rituals. I do Sunday rituals. That's my favorite.
That's the biggest.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things.
Just now when I got here to meet you, I got out of my car and I was already in chaos, and I needed to do my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before I met you, because I did not, the one thing I missed on my Sunday ritual was I did not reset my car for the week on Sunday. And so my back seat is covered in open house signs and half blown up balloons, and it's just chaos. And every week I reset on Sundays. I think that that's the biggest ritual, because it's different, routines and rituals are different.
Yeah.
That is the biggest ritual that if I don't do it, my life is in shambles.
Yeah, I find that too. I find that having that time to clear out, I go back, I recap whatever happened the week before.
Same.
I look to see where I could be more efficient. And for me, it's and then on Monday morning at 6 a.m., we have a day one mentality saying.
Yes,
so
I
read
that.
it every Monday morning when I start and throughout the week, but it's my first thing I do on Monday, and I do that after my Sunday ritual, because that gives me a fresh start for the week. I've been in the business 22 years, you've been in the business a long time. When you're in the business for a while, it's so important to have something that resets you. You have to. So ours is probably the same. Check your 3 biggest rocks for the week and of last week. Did you move them? Did you not? What got in the way? What worked well? What didn't? And then I look at what is my schedule for the week this week. And then the first thing I do is, besides the rocks, is first checking the weather. I check the weather for the whole week.
and then I look at my entire calendar of anything I have that's standing appointments, and then I just write it out, and then I pick out my outfits for the week based on what the weather is going to be, and then I pick out those outfits, put those aside, and I plan my meals.
Unbelievable.
And it's just, and the car gets washed and reset, and the clothes, like even down to my workout clothes, like they're rolled up with my socks and leggings and everything, like, and it's ready to go. So what, and it's not, and a lot of people are like, you're so disciplined. I'm like, I just don't have a choice. Like, if in order to hit certain levels in life and in business, it's not that I enjoy being this disciplined. I don't have a choice because I need to get rid of decision fatigue.
That's it. And when what it does for me is it creates free space.
Yeah.
Because if we only have so much attention, we think about life as time, and I really look at it now differently. I look at it more as you only have so much attention you can give to something.
Totally.
And if something is taking away from your ability to pay attention to what you need to be successful that week, you lose time because you didn't manage what you could put your attention on.
Absolutely. And even just like standing there and being like, okay, so I have an appointment today. What should I wear? Like, I don't have time for that. We don't have time for that.
I never check the weather. I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, I check the weather because if I know it's going to be raining, then I'm going to wear different colors. I'm going to wear a different type of shoes that day.
Yeah.
And maybe, that would be the day I won't get my hair washed.
Yeah, right. No, I love that. I'm adding that to my Sunday.
We'll plan the blow dries. We just got ours today. That's every 5 days, just little things, and it makes things more efficient. If I know I'm going to be out on appointments and on the road for maybe a day or two, then I'm going to pack different snacks that week versus how much meal prep am I going to do because I have a lunch and I have a dinner reservation somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's the weather thing is a big deal.
Yeah, and I never even thought to do that. That's awesome. I'm going to take that on. I'm stealing that.
Yes. And then the savers. I think that the savers and Miracle Morning stuff is phenomenal. Yet what I learned after really mastering the savers was it starts at night.
Oh, really?
Like, your nighttime routine sets you up for your morning routine.
Oh, definitely.
Your morning routine can be great, but if your night routine was not good beforehand, then...
Yeah, I'm reading, I just read a book called Project 369. I had sent a message to you. And And it talks about morning, you work on it every day, and you have your morning manifestations, and then your afternoon and evening. But just kind of keeps you on focus, and you read as you go through the book. I love the book. A good friend of mine, Catherine, gave it to me, and I've been enjoying it so much. But I feel like it's so important to have something that you do at night. So to elaborate on that, when you go to sleep, I've been doing so much research on the mind, and when you go to sleep, whatever you thought last is what's going into your subconscious mind.
Over and over without you even knowing it.
And you think, and we don't realize because we have a pattern, whether we want it's deliberate or not. We have a pattern.
Yeah.
So our thinking pattern is what normally will happen right before you go to sleep, unless you change it. And that is such a powerful tool, is to be able to be conscious of what you're thinking before you go to sleep.
Well, that's why I keep like a notebook next to my bed. It's just a brain dump. The phone doesn't stay in the bed; it's away from the bed, and it's just a brain dump. Because if I'm laying down and my brain's going, I have to get it out because I can't sleep, and I have insomnia anyways. So I've been learning that I'm really liking my virtual assistants that are overseas and only work at night because they get all my brain dumps. And the best feature that iPhone just came out with is send later text.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So when you send out a text and you're like, 11 o'clock, man, I didn't call that person back today. I'm like, good morning. I just wanted to follow up with you. And then I really wrote that at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But I'm sending it scheduled send at like 9:02
Oh, I didn't even see that. I have to go look
Game
at that
changer.
update. Oh, because I do that at night too.
Game changer.
Yeah, and my husband will do that too. And I'll be like, are you sure you want to send that text at 10 o'clock? He's like, oh, right. And I'll think the same thing.
And then I forget, and then I don't send anything.
Right, exactly.
Send later is the best iPhone new feature.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm stealing a lot of things from you.
See, I learned from you too.
Thinking back to business, what is some of your business has changed, and you've evolved into, obviously you serve people that come to you, but you've really tapped into a more luxury side of the business. What was the catalyst that got you there?
Well, I would say to be honest, in the beginning, that was my true intentions, although it was not the easiest in the beginning, yet I was willing to play the long game. So in the beginning, I was very strategic. Like, I had already worked for that developer, but my job wasn't to sell residential real estate. It was to go to all the high-end agents from Miami to Palm Beach, and what I did was I studied them. Like, I studied them and learned about them, and then when I went into residential real estate, I was still studying them, and I would learn where I would have big maps in the room, and I would learn all the waterways. Like anybody from 595 to Sawgrass, Everglades to the ocean, ask me a street, I'll tell you the value. I can tell you how high the fixed bridges are. I can tell you how deep the waterways are. I can tell you how big of a boat you can fit there, how long it'll take you to get to the open ocean, if you can do a catamaran or a yacht based on the depth of the water. Like you name it, I have it.
Right.
And but that started just with maps I would blow up and just start to study on my own time.
Yeah.
And then I was super broke, so like most realtors, and I would go to all the brokers' opens and open houses that were all luxury, and houses up to 30 million, and my car was so ratchet and it had like these screaming belts on it, and I was so embarrassed. It was a Mazda Protege, and so I would park like far away from the brokers open and I would walk in like the only one of 2 black dresses that I had. And like nobody knew, right? And my brand was still pink though at the time. It wasn't a flamingo then though. And I would walk to the house like further away and just be like, oh, I was just at an appointment down the street. No, I wasn't. And then at the brokers opens and the open houses that were luxury, they always had food and drinks, so then I got to eat for free. So then when I really was going to get social media content and be like, hey, I'm previewing this home for a buyer. Do you think that they would mind if I jumped in the pool? The seller would mind. This could be all yours for $10 million. And I would just do that repeatedly, and I was very professional to the agents because I wanted them to take me serious when I had a buyer that I was going to bring them and I was going to be in the luxury game.
Yeah.
Like this was manifested.
100%.
This was very intentional in order to do that.
Yeah.
Very.
And you put yourself in the environment.
Yeah.
So you put yourself in the environment to feel what that feels like.
Yeah.
And that's really a part of manifestation. I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're manifesting something that you want, it's really about connecting to the feeling of it. So you put yourself in the environment to feel what it feels like to be in the luxury environment.
Yeah. I manifested. I would study all the time and the agents and what they did. And even right now, there's an agent that I am studying the heck out of, and I've made small tweaks and changes over the last probably 3 months. And because of things that I'm learning more from her, that I'm like, oh my God, that is genius. Yeah. That is, even yesterday, my protege that I'm molding right now, she said, you know, one thing I noticed that she does, the queen. And I was like, yes, what does she do? And she's like, she never says just listed. She doesn't say, my new listing. Everything just says new to the market. And I was like, done, let's do it. Not even a question. If the queen does it, we're doing it. We're doing it. So I love that. We're still growing, we're still learning, but the luxury market is definitely something that I've tapped into, and this year I will definitely do double digits and point lots. I love that. See, it's just you saw it, you wanted it, you went after it. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. Yeah, it's not even a question. No, I'm no question here. We're gonna get it. So to talk about brand real quick, because one of the things that you've done really well also is just brand yourself. So where did the flamingo come from? Well, I always stuck to, again, this came back to researching agents from the very beginning. And I remember, I researched agents across the entire country, and I found this one guy in Australia, and his entire brand was like pink, and he had like bus stations and little cars, and I was like, that is so cool. Can't wait to find the drive, because I talk about him and I have no idea what his name was. And then there was another guy, Kyle Whistle in California, and then he had an orange brand, and then I was like, you know what, we're just gonna go pink. So everything I did was pink. Like dresses were pink, my nails were pink, my business cards were pink, everything was pink. And then I remember I did my first client event, which was a puppy pop-up event, which, God, was 9 years ago tomorrow. Wow. Now that I think about it. It was my 30th birthday. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, it was my 30th birthday, and it was a puppy event open to the public for adoption, and someone walked up to me and they said, you must be Tara. And I said, how do you know? And they said, you're wearing pink. Oh, and wow. I was like, that was only 6 months of consistency. Wow. You know, and I remember that I was in this community, I wanted to be a certified divorce specialist, because I figured that was like 2 to 3 minimum deals. So I became one. And I remember the woman who I respected very much, and I wanted her to be my mentor. She looked at me one time and she said, you know, I think the pink brand you have is like a little immature. And it really bothered me that I almost I really thought it was, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. And I didn't listen. Good. And so then when it started to work, because I was consistent, then you can get creative once you're consistent. And so then I said, well, what's pink? And someone said the flamingo. And I said, No. That is like the Florida lottery symbol and the plastic things outside the mobile homes. Like, we ain't doing that. Like, not happening. So then I looked at the meaning of flamingos, and they symbolize elegance and beauty, but they're the bird that is also the most social and family-oriented, and the bird that lives the longest in its category of birds.
Wow.
So I looked at the family, and I said, we're one big flock.
Yep.
We are flamazing, and we're going to flamingo all around town, and we're changing everything.
And it works, because I never not, every time I see a flamingo, you're the first person that pops into my head.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, honestly. You've really done a really good job with that, because you did it very, very classy, but also in a very fun way. It's very fun because you say, let's flamingo. Every time, you do I see you on the video, let's flamingo. It's just something that stays, and it's fun, and it's light.
I think it also speaks to my core values and belief systems too, right? They stand on one leg to stay balanced, and sometimes we need to be reset to really be balanced. And the greater flamingo is the largest species of a flamingo, and that one flamingo is kind of like the one that also mothers the others, and the mothers have to feed the babies because they're white, and it depends on what are they feeding their souls and insides in order to actually get the pinker color. And the more that they eat in order to get that pink color, the more nourishment that they give, then that's how they become more vibrant. And it's just all like
the whole thing.
It's little. I'm like a walking flamingo.
I love that. No, I really do. And you connect with it, and other people connect you to it.
Yeah.
We name our team is called the Gulfstream team, and the reason why we named it that is because years ago, my father-in-law, who was an engineer, very, very smart man, and he told me that if you can harness the power of the Gulf Stream, you can power the entire United States.
Wow.
It's so powerful that anything that gets in the way of the Gulf Stream has to go with it, or it doesn't survive. So when we think about when we came into this market a few years ago, my partner and I, we sat down and I was like, we're the Gulf Stream, because what we're going to do is we're going to pierce the market, we're going to thrive in it, and whoever tries to get in our way is just not going to make it. And we changed it, and now we're the Gulf Stream team, but it resonates with me just like a flamingo resonates with you, because that memory of sitting with my father-in-law telling me how powerful the Gulf Stream is and that you can't disrupt it. You either go with it or you have to get out.
I love that. And that's the same thing with the flock that's growing right now. And, it's really, really cool to attract the tribe that you want that wants to become part of the flock.
Yes. Yeah. And align with it. Yeah. Align with the direction that you're going. We kept saying sometimes you hear a lot of negativity, and my partner Troy and I always say, just put your blinders on, don't listen to it. Just
blinders.
Keep going.
Amen.
Just keep going.
Oh, amen. Blinders are key.
Yeah, a lot of distraction.
Yeah.
A lot of distraction. If you let it. A lot of things can come at us, but if we just stay focused on what we're doing, and for us, it's just being the Gulf Stream, and for you, it's your flamingoing flock.
That and never taking advice from anybody who hasn't done it 10 times better than you and whatever they're telling you.
That is probably one of the best things ever. Seriously.
I love when the new agents get together and they're like, you should really do this.
Yeah.
And that's not really a good idea. I think you should do this. And I'm like, why are we taking it? Have they done it?
Right.
Did they do it 100 times?
Yes.
And they've mastered it? Then if not, then why are we listening to them?
Right.
It's water cooler talk for a distraction that you don't want to do the work that you need to do, which are the basics.
Right. So looking back, let's say you're, many, many years from now, and you look back at your career, what is something that you would want to be remembered for in the real estate game? Besides
being a badass who always lives unapologetically herself, I would say to have a legacy of a business that is truly built on love, appreciation, and generosity, and just really giving back to the community. I always want to, my goal is to change, one person's life a day, give 5 acts of service a day, and 7 hugs a day.
I love that. Well, I'm going to take that.
Yeah, that's, so that, if I don't, it feels weird. And we don't do those, in the beginning, I used to kind of count, but now it just happens so naturally. Yeah. And something so little, 2 days ago, I saw that the lady next to me, when I pulled up to a parking space, her meter was out, so I took some coins and I just put them in. No one knows I did that. The universe knows I did that, but we don't do that to post on social media to say, look at me. Yeah. Or in the elevator, I compliment somebody, or if a girl looks nice or somebody looks down, I say something, I talk to strangers, and you just never know what people are going through. And I just think that the world would be a better place if everybody had the same mentality to just change one person's life a day.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for being here. I know this will contribute to many people. You're awesome.
I hope so.
Thank you, Tara Carter.
I love you.
I love you too.
Love you.
Thank you.